The tournament report now. As of this moment, I've yet to record my actual ban list thought dump video. I'll be doing that after this. But I figured I might as well get this over and done with, since I want to take this deck down and put together the deck that I plan on using at Sunday's tournament. So I figured I'd get this out of the way along with the tournament report, although it's probably going to be a rather shitty tournament report, just because I can't remember a whole lot about my Swiss matchups. But my weapon of choice for last night was Red Eyes. I managed to complete the deck, or at least to a level where I felt like it was playable. Obviously, there's some room for improvement, and this is a different build from what a lot of people have seen before. I actually experimented a little bit with this, and I was actually quite happy with the results. So let's go ahead and move straight into the deck without any further ado. So, being Red Eyes, have to play Red Eyes. So I'm going to play 3 of the vanilla Red Eyes, along with 2 of the Black Flare Dragon. The thing that makes the level 7s really vital in this deck is because most of the support cards that came out for Red Eyes supports anything that's level 7 and or possibly lower. Just really depends on the support card itself. But for the most part, you really want the level 7s. They're going to be the ones you summon the most, and of course they're the ones you're going to be using to overlay into your bigger XCs. So the real differences between this and this is this being a Gemini monster means that it has pretty much just as much synergy with certain stuff that the vanilla has. For example, dump this with the Dragon Shrine. It's a vanilla when it's in the grave, so you can dump another card. And of course, anything that supports normal monsters will receive some kind of support from that. Its actual Gemini effect, if it involves itself in damage calc, during the end of the battle phase, if it's still around, it hits the opponent for its original attack and damage. So regardless of what your opponent does, even if they're trying to set creatures in order to store, you're still doing them 2,400 points of damage, which that's really nice. It's a pretty decent addition. I don't think they could have actually done that a whole lot better. It gives it an effect, but at the same time, it keeps it as well supported as the vanilla Red Eyes, so that it doesn't render the vanilla Red Eyes entirely useless. So I've only got the 2 copies of the Blackstone of Legend, and so of course only have to run the 2. If I had the 3rd one, I would, but they're just still kind of ridiculous in terms of price. It's more of a collector's value sort of thing than anything, because Red Eyes is of course a classic boss monster. That being said, I still saw this quite a lot, so I personally don't think the 3rd one is entirely necessary. The 3rd one's really only there just to really make sure you open it with it as often as possible. Even then, this is technically searchable. It's not actual a direct search, so you can get around mistake with the way you add this to your hand, but it's still very vital. That's another thing as well, because you can just recycle these things. So it's really only a matter of opening it that draws people that want to play 3, and I'm not really too fussed about it. I'd like to get a playset just for collective purposes, but I don't really care about the number I run as long as it's at least 2. And then Darkness Metal Dragon, picked up a secret one, I think in a trade or something, but it's pretty happy to have that. It's pretty much a general dragon staple, but the fact that it's Red Eyes, I suppose, is just a nice little bonus, even though it doesn't get even though it doesn't get the support of the level 7 monsters, because it is far above that, and so they won't work on it. It's still just really good. The 1 Debris Dragon, this works in tandem with the 1 Keeper of the Shrine that I'm playing. So this is just a really quick rank 4. And the Shrine itself as well is really good for bringing itself back, sitting as a 2100, but and searching your Red Eyes. Actually searches any normal monster, Dragon type normal monster, although it is from the deck, so I actually know it is from the graveyard, so you can get back yeah. I think I actually misplayed with it once, now that I think about it. I kind of forgot that you added from the graveyard. I think I might have added something from deck. That's actually kind of saddening. But oh well, it's basically just a means of recycling shit, keeping field presence, and this can just bring that back and make rank 4. I also have a single synchro that this works with. You could probably take a guess at what it is. But I was pretty happy with the way that worked out. Now, for the second part of this deck, I had the Red Eyes engine supported by the Star Seraph engine. So I suppose you could say this is like Seraph Red Eyes or something like that. So around the 3 sticks and the 3 chairs. Basically, my theory with having this as like a supporting cast for the Red Eyes is that I'd use the Red Eyes for the draw power to get into the stick chair, and then from there set the stick chair up to first have good board presence, and then second to obviously use Scepter Sovereignty to draw into stuff, make sure I don't lose advantage, and then I can use that stuff to bring the Red Eyes back if the stick chair play sort of goes down the drain. It's basically like first line of defense, and then once that's cleared out, I bring the hit sticks out and start ripping. That's the theory behind it, and it actually worked out pretty well. I got stick chair off a fair amount of times. I actually once made an Ouroboros with triple stick, and that was in my top 4 matchup. Or was it? No, it was in my top 8 matchup. I lost my top 4 matchup horribly. The only other cards that I am running monster-wise are the 2 copies of Max C and the 2 Gauze. Gauze is very, very handy. I used its token. I used it itself for extra deck plays. And Max C actually went up against Karakuri's and got I believe, a +9 against Karakuri's. I can't remember. I was like, obviously I had my opening 5. I went down 1. I think I ended up with about maybe 12 cards in hand. So I think it was more like a +7 or 8 or something like that. But yeah, I pretty much had everything I needed to rip that match up a new one in that just off of that one turn, which was really insane. Aside from that, it was pretty useful in getting a couple of in digging through the deck. For the spells, Upstart Goblin, because the deck is admittedly a bit on the slow side. I mean, you have draw power, but you kind of got to work towards your plays. I mean, if you don't have your if you don't have a good hand, everything's just gonna run through sluggishly. So you want to try to decrease the amount of dead cards that you have. So you want to have stuff like the draw cards, the dumping cards, cards of the Redstone I'm running 2 copies of, Dragon Shrine, Allure of Darkness, and Sacred Sword of 7 stars. These things are actually really easy side outs, just in case I didn't need them. I also usually sided the oh dearie me, my light's just gone off. And okay, hang on. Excuse me for a sec. Okay, that should be, we should be good light-wise. I could easily go and get another torch and pause, but whatever. We'll keep going with the list. So yeah, Allure of Darkness and 7 Swords, really pretty easily cuttable. The upstarts, they're cuttable as well, because I'd usually relegate them out of the side if I knew I was going to go into time, and I did, I think, twice. I can't entirely remember. But yeah, Dragon Shrines. Dragon Shrine's the reason you can just directly add Blackstone to your hand, because you just dump Red Eyes plus a Blackstone, and then you can put that Red Eyes straight back into the deck and add the Blackstone to hand. It is still a slow play though, because you can't use the Blackstone's effect to special summon the Red Eyes straight out of the decks because of its restriction. Cards of the Redstone as well, like I probably wouldn't even dream of playing 3 of this unless I was putting together the sort of experimental build that I'm thinking of, where I just dig through my deck, Red Eyes Fusion for Archfiend Black Skull, and then just drop Triple Inferno Fire Blast for an FTK. But that's going to be just, that's a different story altogether. I've got no idea how I'm going to bloody work that one out, or even if I am going to build that one. So this is literally just here for the sole purpose of digging through your deck. So that's pretty much all the spells do. And the only spell that doesn't really do that much is the Soul Charge, because that just brings your stuff back and makes quick plays. So then for the traps, have to run the Triple Call of the Haunted. This does clash a bit with Gauze, which is unfortunate. But the stick chair plays really is made so much better with the Call of the Haunted, because even if you lose your stick, you just bring it back with Call of the Haunted and then just start ripping into your opponent anyway. So this is really good. It makes for an easy, you can easily side one of these out for game 2 or 3 if you don't think it's entirely as necessary. To break through skill to stop stuff. 2 Mirror Force is the hand trap. You don't have a lot of room to run just traps in general, so you want to try to be as effective as you can with your traps. So these I felt were arguably the best. Then I have the Ring of Destruction, Bottomless, and Solemn Warning. Ring of Destruction is just for burn aspect of the deck. I didn't really want to run this and it's even not even that necessary. I just sort of threw it in there because why the hell not? I don't throw it in a whole lot of my other decks because I don't really like it, but I threw it in. I used it, I think, a couple of times, and it actually wasn't too bad. I can't actually fault its performance, to be perfectly honest with you there. So that is, I believe, 40 card main deck. For the side deck, I'm playing just the one copy of Red Eyes Flame Metal because, again, it's the only one that I have. It also happens to be a streak breaker because I actually pulled this from a Clash of Rebellions box and it was not recorded, unfortunately. So here you have the first Ghost Red that I pulled, and I have no proof of it, which is unfortunate. But yeah, some people would play 2. Some people even play 3. 3 is far too much. 3 is really superfluous. And especially when you consider that I have to run a handful more rank 4s in this deck now because of the stick chair. I probably wouldn't see myself playing any more than 2 copies of this. So, but I've only got the one, so I have to deal with the one. As for the other rank 7s, Dracosac, which I surprisingly never made, it's kind of interesting to note how kind of useless Dracosac is now. I mean, it's a good rank 7, but I never really found much of a use for it because I'd rather just either have Flame Metal, which protects itself from stuff, just sort of better. I mean, you can still, like, this thing's immune to attack, but it really requires stuff, and the popping's kind of cool, but there's just other ways to get it off the board, so it's really not as useful now. Big Eye I saw a couple of times. I used this to steal a Cyber Twin Dragon in round 4, which was really kind of dirty, but yeah. Master of Blades. The problem with Master of Blades is that there's not a whole lot of targeting stuff now. Because like there's, I mean, obviously people do like playing Veiler, and I think there's a few Deepers and stuff around. But usually when I attack, I tend to run into a Mirror Force, or I get hit with like Trapped with Chapel Nightmare and stuff like that. Just stuff that doesn't target. So this isn't anywhere near as effective at my locals as it could be, which is unfortunate. Gaia Dragon, it's literally just a piercer of the deck. It's really just nothing more than a beat stick. Same thing with Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon, which I pulled from a prize pack from about a couple of weeks ago. This, again, is entirely not even that necessary. It is a 3k beat stick, which is really nice. But heading into the future, you don't really need massive beat sticks anymore because towers isn't a thing anymore. So this is really just a placeholder. If I got my second copy of Flame Metal Dragon, I'd definitely cut this one first for that Flame Metal Dragon because I've already got enough beat sticks as it is, and if I wanted to have a big beat stick, I can just take my opponents once because I've got a Big Eye, so it's fine. Playing the Constellar Diamond, and of course alongside the Deltaros. Playing the Dark Rebellion. It's only in this slot because I like to have my ghosts near each other when they're sort of... I'm very weird about that. Let's just take that out because that's Dark Rebellion. And then there's Ouroboros just as a third part of the stick chair engine. This is really all you need in regards to stick chair stuff. If you're playing stick chair in Shadows, then obviously Loom Knight's a different thing, but Shadows just aren't a thing anymore, so we shouldn't even be discussing that. The thing I like about Ouroboros is though, I actually prefer to go into Ouroboros because if this is destroyed, then it can trigger Keeper of the Shrines effect, so you can just put the shrine in defense mode, and then from there, if you've got like Darkness Metal Dragon in your hand, you can just tribute for the Darkness Metal and make your Red Eyes plays. That's basically what I was thinking of when it came to using the stick chair combo as a support and just sort of like a first line of defense, because you can just make this and it just segues directly into the Red Eyes stuff, which I thought was really nice. But yeah, there was also Dark Rebellion. Yeah, it's Dark Rebellion. I actually did use it against my opponent's Dark Rebellion and won because of it. But aside from that, it was sort of there. Emerald, I didn't make a whole lot of these smaller rank 4s. I think the one I went for the most was well, aside from the now condemned Exciton, the Queen Dragoon Jin, because I usually do this and make a rank 7. Because I could just bring back Dead Red Eyes, then banish this for Darkness Metal, and then use the Darkness Metal to bring it back another level 7, and then make any rank 7 I wanted to. So this is definitely a good card. Very, very highly advised card to run in this deck. Can't say the same for Exciton because it's about to drop dead. And then Castell is my last rank 4, and then the only synchro I'm running is the Star Reader, which you probably would have guessed. Just works really well with Red Eyes and Gauls and the Redragon. Now for the side deck. This, I'm not even sure how I'd describe the side deck. It's actually kind of worked out well enough for me. Aside from the Lanciers, because I never sided this in against anything, I kind of figured I'd be dealing with some kind of banishing deck, but everyone decided to put all their banishing decks away. I don't know. Maybe someone wanted to be a deck and play Cosmo or some shit, but I've got no idea. Sided Regeki. I actually top decked this against Karakuri game 2. And won because of that. Because that came the turn after I Star Eater over a Stardust, which was really, he was salty about that. Cyclone, just for back row hate. 2 copies of Prohibition. I actually can't remember now if I've shown this off. I'm pretty sure I did show it off in an earlier deck list. This is it basically. Yeah, this is for the PSY-Frame. I sided it against PSY-Frame matchup because I got it round 1, and I didn't see it. Moving on. I'd rather not discuss that because that just pisses me off. 3MST again to deal with the back row hate, floodgates, blah blah blah. 2 Light Imprisoning Mirror. I actually got a Bujin matchup, so this is pretty useful in that matchup. Except for the fact that I still lost, which was really kind of sucky. 2 Mistake, again, useful in the Bujin matchup. Still lost. And then lastly, Debunk. I can't remember if I dropped this, but I sided it against Bujin. Had still lost. So that was kind of crummy. Like, I sided like 12 cards in for the Bujin matchup, but at that point I didn't really care. I was just playing for the fun of it. Yes, it was top 4, but didn't really care too much. Like, at that point, if I won the whole thing, I won the whole thing, then yay. But yeah, it wasn't an entirely huge goal for me. So putting the Red Eyes back up front so I can go through the tournament report. Round 1 was the PSY-Frame matchup. I thought I'd known well enough about the deck, having done a few test hands for my own build. And then turns out I just completely and utterly forgot what they did. Well, not so much completely and utterly, but I did forget a couple of things about the deck, so I still need a bit more practice with that particular deck. I'll hopefully be presenting a list on that at some point in the future. So I basically got ground out of resources both on game 1 and then game 2. I just kept getting beat sticked by a PSY-Frame driver in time, and I bricked really, really hard. So it was a tough game 1, but then game 2 kind of just ruined the whole match because I bricked and it was really kind of shitty. Round 2, I legitimately cannot remember shit about round 2 aside from the fact that it was a relatively swiftly 2-0. No, hang on. Yeah, no, I remember round 2 now. I remember round 2 perfectly. It was against, how do I call this? Clownblade. No, not Artifice. Clownblade Hand Trap Tricks. That's the one. Clownblade Hand Trap Tricks. Because I don't think he ever saw his clowns. And the only reason the clowns were implied to me was because he was running Thousand Blades and the Assault Halberds. Aside from that, he was just running the Trap Tricks in the hands, and that's about it for the monsters. And basically just sat back on, did some helmet stuff. He dropped Dark Rebellion twice in as many games, but the first game I made my own Dark Rebellion and ran over him. And he just happened to have 2,500 life points at the time, so I won directly off that attack. Game 2, I think it was just a sweep or something along those lines. I think I just blew up his field or something like that. I've got no idea. It was 2-0 though. It wasn't like a swift 2-0 because he did threaten to smack me in the chops both games, but I managed to just pull it out. Round 3, I played against Karakuri. He went first, game 1, and decided, screw it, take Maxi challenge. He gave me like 7 or 8 cards. And he had, I think, a board of Double Burrito Stardust. And so I just set a whole bunch of back row. made Deltaros so that he couldn't chain to the Deltaros effect from stick applied. I worded that so terribly. That's got to be a highlight or some shit. But yeah, stick effect applied to Deltaros. That's the one. Couldn't chain to it, so I popped the Stardust. I basically just ran over him there and had too many traps. I had double Mirror Force, so he just wasn't going to get through me. So I took that game. And then game two, I didn't have the max C. He put the big stuff on board. I made Star Reader, ran over Stardust. Um, he basically then just needed to. He basically then wanted to draw some more stuff, so he just kept switching his Karakuri positions to get draws off of Burrito. The very next turn, I top deck Regeki and then basically just beat over him with Star Reader for the game. And then round four, I played Cyber Dragons. I was an absolute arsehole to this guy. Like not actual like telling him he shit or anything. I'm not that kind of person, but I was arsehole in the way I stopped him from doing his stuff. He power modded for an 8k Cyber Dragon, which I promptly bottomlessed, and then just swept him for the last 4k of his points. And then game two, as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Big Eye, he had he had Nova. He got rid of a Cyber Dragon to make it 42. Ran into it with Mirror Force. He then followed up by attacking twice with the Twin Dragon, which I dropped Gauls after the second attack. And then from there, I made Big Eye, Darkness Metal, and yeah, Darkness Metal made the Big Eye, stole the Cyber Twin, and then basically swung for the OTK, which so um, pretty swift 2-0, but very arsehole-ish in the method that I took to get there. So 3-1 record after the 4 rounds of Swiss. My top 8 was against Gem-Knight, Volcanics. He did get one clean off my board in game 1, but I was able to get back from that by stick chairing. From there, I basically just ran him over. I think he just scooped by the once he ran out of resources. And then game 2, I opened 2 sticks. I summoned the first one to get a chair. It was a round for the next turn. I think he had like maybe one. No, he had actually no macros. So I went straight for this stick chair play. So I summoned the second stick, added that second chair. That first chair, of course, would chain. So the first chair summoned, and then I actually got the third stick off it. So I summoned the third stick and then just left the second chair in hand since I had no more room on the monster zone. So I just made Ouroboros, popped his 2 monsters and my set Keeper of the Shrine. One of those 2 monsters was Scatter Shot, which I promptly banished, and then he scooped immediately afterward because he was like too salty about the sack. So it was again an arsehole-ish way to win the game, but it is what it is. And then top 4 matchup, I got Bujins. And this one was actually kind of annoying. He was running Kaiser Coliseum, but thankfully he didn't get it against me, so I was pretty happy with that. The problem was he still he basically his hands were basically crane magnets, so he basically just always had a crane or an honest, and so he was just able to beat over my sticks and then just run straight over me for game. Game 2, I was like really trying to put together a rank 4 play. I had like bugger all life points left, and then he just decided to drop the asshole move on me, which I suppose is karma coming back to bite me in the ass. He made Heartland Draco and attacked for the last of my life points, which is unfortunate. I did still get third though, which I suppose was kind of cool. But I got like jack shit out of my pack. I didn't even get an Astral Pack because the Astral Packs didn't arrive, and even that Clash Rebellion pack I chose to get instead was an absolute arsehole because I pulled my third freaking Infernoid Terror. So I now have a playset of those sitting in my trade binder that nobody's ever going to freaking want because they rarity halls and they all want ultis. It's rather shit. But that's it for this video. Very next video I'll be doing is my thought dump video. Hopefully that won't take too long. I may have a rest and do it tomorrow because I had a really bad headache earlier today and it was really freaking shitty. I was just sort of resting up from that. So in regards to deck list, I believe if I'm going Sunday, I can rest assured the next deck is going to be Yangzing because I finally managed to complete the core last night by getting in my last 2 copies of I also got my final Jiaotu, so now I've got a playset of each of the cards that it was in this pile. So that's all the monsters and the 2 actually good spell non-monsters. So good stuff there. So that's about it. How long has this video been going for? 26 minutes. For God's sake. No, it's 25 minutes. But it's still going to take an eternity to freaking upload. Oh well, whatever. Enough lollygagging. Half in fucking shadow. God, the light sucks.